Hello everyone, and welcome to today's episode of Cricut Magic. And today what we're going to be doing is we're going to be using our Cricut machine to make some patriotic kind of 4th of July crafts. And so today's project is actually going to be a cute little banner that says Happy 4th of July. So let's start out with a couple of materials that we're going to need. So of course, you're going to want to have your Cricut machine nearby. You're also going to want to have your device, such as a computer, tablet, or a phone. Some device that has Cricut Design Space on it so that you can use that. From there, what you're going to want is some paper. So since this is going to be a patriotic kind of 4th of July craft, you're going to want some cardstock paper, probably in red, white, and blue. And I just have plain colored paper today. I also have this yellow paper right here as well for text, but I might change it to black a little bit later on. Not quite sure yet, but definitely have some colors of cardstock nearby. You're also probably going to want some form of glue or tape that you can use to assemble the project. You might want a weeder tool of some kind nearby. You might want to have a scraper or the squeegee tool so that you can get all of the extra little pieces off of your mat. You're also going to want your light grip mat that came with your Cricut machine. And then from there, you're going to probably want nearby, just in case you need it, you're probably going to want a pair of scissors of some kind, whether they be a large pair or a smaller pair. You'll probably want to have those on hand just in case you need it. Then you're also, for this project, going to want some form of yarn, twine, thread, whatever you think you might want to string a banner across a surface. So once you've gathered all of your supplies, let's switch over to the computer and let's start to create that 4th of July banner. All right, and now that we have pulled up Cricut Design Space on our device, what we're going to be doing is we are going to come over here. We're going to create a new project. And as you can see, it just pulled up a blank canvas for us, which is perfect. So first things first, what we're going to want to do for this project is we're going to want to create the shape of the banner. Now there are a couple ways that we can do this. First off, we're going to come over here and we're going to look inside of shapes, just to see if there are any special shapes that we could use for a banner. Now, as I scroll down through here, I am seeing that there are some shapes that are banner-like. However, none of them are really making me happy. So what we're going to do is we're going to switch over to images, and we're going to search for a banner up here. So as you can see, a lot of stuff pulled up, and this right here is actually looking a lot like what I'm hoping for. So I am going to add this into the canvas. However, there are some things that I'm not quite sure that I like about it, but we're going to keep looking and see if there are any other shapes that we like. This is a pretty good one. However, it looks like this might be a premium image. However, I'm not seeing anything that says it's Cricut Access, so I'm going to add this as well. So after doing a little bit more digging inside of the images of Design Space, I really am quite happy with this pink one right here. I think it's going to do the best for this project. So I'm just going to close out of images now, and I'm going to delete this pendant. Now before I do anything else, I'm going to want to take care of these little circles at the top. So in order to remove these 2 circles, we're just going to hit on the banner, and we're going to come down to this right-hand side, and we're going to select. And once the screen is pulled up, you can just select on the 2 little circles, and you're going to see that they kind of hide inside of the banner pendant. And then if you just click outside, you can see that those 2 circles have gone away. Okay, from here, before I go any further in the project, what I want to do is I'm going to create this banner into the size that I'm hoping for each page of paper. Now, since a banner is usually somewhat big, I'm kind of looking for 2 of these panels to fit on a sheet of paper. So if you remember from last time, I told you that cardstock is 8.5 inches by 11 inches. So 8.5 inches in width and 11 inches in height. So what that really means is that you have 8 by 10.5 inches to work with. So if I bring these banners and I create their width to be about 3.9 in width, what will happen is that 2 of these will be able to fit on an 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper. And if I pull up a guide, you'll be able to see. All right, so now that we have a guide pulled up, I just want you to see that I took a square shape and I changed the operation to guide. I unlocked the sizing up here and I changed it to the true size that we have to cut out on a piece of cardstock paper if it's turned horizontally. So that means that the width we have 10.5 inches to work with, and the height we have 8 inches to work with. So as long as 2 of these little banner pieces can fit onto 1 sheet of paper, I will be very, very happy with life. So what I'm just going to do is I'm going to start changing size and messing with this to get a good feel for how big each of these can be in terms of width. Now I'm going to duplicate over here on this right hand side to get a second one. So as you can see, both of these would not fit on an 8.5 by 11 with the guide markers. So I'm just going to click on both of them. I'm going to drag it back into the space. So now we have 2 banners that will fit onto 1 sheet of paper. And if that confused you at all, let me show you one other different way. So as you can see, I just took away those guidelines and I brought this banner piece back to what its original sizing was. And as you can see, it is 3.9 inches in width by a height of 5 inches, pretty much. And so from there, pretty much the second way that you can do this without having guides is you can just kind of think of it in terms of a little bit of math. So we know that if we were to put this piece of cardstock paper horizontally onto our mat, we would have the 11 inches horizontally. But in reality, we have 10.5 because of the 1/4 inch allowance so that you don't go off of a page. In this case, that doesn't necessarily matter. However, it's just good to keep in mind. So we have 10.5 inches. So if we were to think about that, 10.5 inches divided into 2, because I want 2 of these banners on 1 sheet of paper, gives me 5.25 inch. And so in decimal point, that is 5.25 is the highest that we can go in terms of width. Now, since I want a little bit of wiggle room, I'm going to make them 5.2. And so a third way that you could think about this is that you can always just guesstimate. So if you know that you can't go all the way up to 11 inches, just say that you can go up to 10.5. And from there you can say, well, that's kind of a tricky measurement, so I'll do 10 inches instead. And from there what you can do is you can say, okay, well, 10.5 is 5. So you could make the width of your banners each 5 inches. And then you know that 2 banner pieces will fit onto that 1 sheet of cardstock horizontally. So from here, what we want to do is we probably want to start trying to figure out the text. So I'm just going to come up over here. I'm going to change this to red because we'll probably be dealing with red, white, and blue. And I'm going to pull out the image a little bit so we're at a 75% zoom. And now we're going to be adding in the text that's going to lay over the top of our banner. So we're just going to hit text. Okay, now we can just type in the text that we are wanting. So I'm going to caps lock and type out happy. And then I'm actually going to leave out 4th of, and then I'm just going to write July here with an exclamation mark. I'm going to pull this off to the side, and I'm going to write 4th of in another text box, because I'm probably going to make that into a different set of text. So the text that I'm trying to ungroup is actually this Happy July with the exclamation mark. However, before I ungroup all of these letterings, to make life a little bit easier, what I'm going to do is I'm going to change the font and the size first, and then from there we will be able to ungroup this, and it will just cause a lot less hassle in the long run. Alright, so I went ahead and I found a font that I am happy with, and from here what I'm going to do is I'm just going to start changing the size until I am kind of happy with how it's looking on a banner piece. So I'm going to bring this down a little bit and check it and resize. Alright, and now that I am happy with the sizing of the text onto a banner piece, I'm just going to select the text. We're going to come up here to Advanced, and we're going to hit Ungroup Letters. So now you can see all of these letters became their own layer over here on the right hand. So with that taken care of, now we can actually move on to the 4th of for our text on the banner. And 4th and of are both going to go on here individually. So we're just going to start to mess with the text of this as well. And we're going to get it all set up onto a banner. And we're going to see how we like it in the end. Okay, so now that I'm happy with the text and the font kind of set up for each of these banners, there is one thing that I want to do before I go ahead and start to kind of change up the banner itself before we cut it out. And I'm just going to come over here to this 4th. I'm going to drag and select all of it. And then since I want both of these to cut out together so that it'll be easier on a template, I'm going to come down here on the right hand side and I'm going to hit attach. So when we go to cut this image now, both the for and the th are going to cut out at the same time on the sheet of paper. And you'll see what I mean here in a minute when we go ahead and cut out this project. So from here, we're going to actually set up the little holes that are going to cut on our banner. So now if you remember, this banner in particular already had those kind of laid out for us. However, if you chose a banner that you didn't have laid out, again, there are ways that you can do the holes without having to use the Cricut, but I figured I would show you how it works on here as well. It might save you a little bit of time hole punching, maybe not on Design Space, but it will hopefully save you some time when you start to build your project itself. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to come into shapes, we're going to come down to circle, and we're going to add to the canvas. Coming out from here, we're going to change the size so the circle is going to be really, really small. And I mean, it's going to be very, very small. Now from here, it becomes more a matter of positioning. So I'm just going to get this one set up how I like it. I'm going to duplicate. I'm going to drag across until we're almost kind of in the same spot. And we can definitely check as well. Just kind of using those two lines as a guide from the center of the image. So now there's a really cool trick that we can do to make sure that these are both lined up together. So what you're going to do is you're going to select both of the circles, and we're going to come up here to align. So once we go into align, you're going to see that you can center vertically. And so that's what we click on in order to make sure that both of those circles are lined up correctly. Then from here, what we want to do is we're going to want to center it onto our banner. So when we come over here to the right hand side, we're going to hit group for those two circles. Then we are going to make sure that we have the banner selected as well, and I just pressed down on the shift key of my computer and I clicked on the banner in order to select that as well. And what we're going to do is we're going to align this now, and we're going to center it horizontally. So now we know that those circles are even on both sides of the banner. Now, the last thing that we need to do here is we need to make it so these circles are actually a part of the banner. So we're just going to click and drag. And then what we're going to do is actually come over here, and you're going to see this group right here. And we're going to ungroup both of those. And actually, we're going to click and drag over one circle at a time in order to come down here onto the right-hand side and click on Slice. And what Slice is going to do is it's going to give us a bunch of different results, and we're going to get rid of both of these circles. So now you can see that the banner has a circle in it. From here, we're going to do the same thing to the other side. Alright, so our project is almost ready to go. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to save this now. And we're going to just title this 4th of July banner. And from here now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to create copies of each of these just to make it easier once we load it onto mats. So I'm just going to duplicate. So now we have 2 of these, and I'll show you what we're going to do for this as we go through our cuts when we start to create our project. So now that I have 2 of those, I'm going to save once again. And I know that this is kind of a jumbled mess of a project. I promise you, once we get it cut out, you're going to see how it works. So now we're going to come over here to the green Make It, and we're going to start to get ready to cut out our project. Definitely remember that you're going to want to make sure that your device has the Bluetooth turned on so that you will be able to find your machine when we turn it on here in a minute. Now that you have your Bluetooth turned on your device, you can go ahead and click Make, and we're going to start to get this all set up. So we are going to be doing this on mat, and so as you can probably see right now, the material size is 12 by 12. Of course, we do not have 12 by 12 inch material, so we're going to bring these 2 pages of black down into letter size. And so now, as you can see, now that we have changed our material size for that letter size piece of paper, off on this left hand side you can see we now have 3 mats of this color of material. And pretty much what we want to do now is we're going to adjust how these letters are placed onto our material, just so that hopefully I'll only have to use 2 pieces of paper instead of 3 at the end of the day. And so as you probably saw, I moved this J up a little bit on the mat from where it was originally placed by Cricut. And so now what we're going to do is we're going to scroll down to this 3rd material. We're going to click on it, and now you can see that we have the L for probably 4th of July. And since this is the only letter on this page, we're going to come up to the 3 dots. We're going to move Object, and we're going to... And so now, as you can see, the L showed up onto this first mat, and I'm just going to click and drag this L down to this lower portion of the project. So now you can see that we are only going to be using 2 sheets of paper instead of 3. And now sometimes it might make more sense to continue to try to readjust your mats to try to save paper. However, this mat right here is already pretty darn full on the 2nd page, so there's not much that we can do. So from here, everything else is probably going to work out just fine. However, I am going to come down to this red sheet of paper where we have the banners that are going to cut out. And you can see that there are 2 on this sheet of paper. So if I were to click on this and kind of drag it just a tad, you can see that when we cut this out, it is going to fit on our piece of paper if we turn it sideways. And I know that it's not showing you because I haven't changed the material sizing. The thing with changing the material size to 8.5 by 11 inches or a letter size sheet of paper is that I've had experiences in the past where it doesn't want it to move. So I just learned early on to kind of think about the pages if they were horizontally by myself. So I know that this is going to fit just fine because it's within the 8-inch marker of a mat and the 11-inch as well. So it's going to fit on our piece of paper just fine if we turn it sideways. Okay, so now with everything taken care of, we're going to hit continue and start to cut. So you can see that now it wants to connect to our machine. So be sure that you open up your machine now and you turn on the power button so that you can connect to your machine. And now that we are connected to our maker, I'm going to come over here onto this side, and I'm just going to double check and make sure that we are going to be cutting out the banners first. So I know that I'm going to need the red, white, and the blue paper first in order to cut out the banners. And since this is the same cardstock as last time, I'm going to hit light cardstock. Now from here, it's just going to be loading the tools and materials and then pressing go. So let's switch over to our Cricut and I will show you everything from there. Alright, so as you can probably see, I do have my Cricut Maker open, and you can see that the power is on, the Bluetooth is connected, and now we have the flashing load and unload button going. So now what we're going to do is we're going to get our materials all set up. So as you can see, I have my light grip mat right here. And so I'm going to take it, going to peel the protective covering off. And move it off to the side. And then I have my different kinds of cardstock. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to check and see real quick, because I do have this piece of paper from last time with our summer sign project where we cut out the watermelon, and I'm just going to see real quick if I were to put this down, if it would still be able to cut nicely on this mat without cutting into the banner. And so pretty much what I'm doing is I'm just looking off on my computer, off on the side, and I'm double checking to see in terms of the lines what I'm kind of dealing with. So I know it's a little difficult to see, but I'm checking out the lines, and it looks like I have about 6.5 is where the top of that watermelon falls. And then off on the side, we have pretty much 9.5, more or less, is where that watermelon indent falls as well. So it might not be worth the risk. So I'm going to take this paper back off, and we're just going to use a clean piece of paper, and we'll save this red piece of paper for another time. So let me just grab a clean sheet of red cardstock. And unlike last project where we were lining it up vertically in the corner, just like this, I'm actually going to turn the paper so it is horizontal. And we're going to line it up in that left-hand corner, make it as straight as possible. I'm going to just flatten it down a little bit. Now from here, we're going to take it and we're going to bring it into our machine. So I'm going to pull out my Cricut Maker, going to line up my mat in the guides, push it all the way up to the rollers, and hit the flashing load unload button. Okay, and now our Cricut machine is all ready to cut out. All right, so as you can see, we now have our 2 banners cut out. So I'm just going to peel this off, and since this material probably won't be able to use for anything else, I'm just going to peel it straight off the mat and not worry about rolling it back. Now for the banners themselves though, I do want to be careful. So I'm going to roll this mat. We're going to gently start to peel off each of the banners. And so you can see both of the little holes for the string have been cut out, and they're actually quite large, and that will be a good thing, I think, in the long run, because if we were to have a different kind of yarn, we would definitely want larger holes in order to string it through. And so now that we have those taken off of our mat, we are just going to take our little scraper tool, and we're just going to take all of these little dots off of our mat. And from here, what we're going to want to do is, since we want to cut out more than one set of these banners, I'm going to come back over here to the computer and I'm going to show you what we do to cut out multiple of the same page. Okay, so back over here on our computer, what you can probably see is that now that we have cut out the red mat, it wants us to cut out our text, but I want to continue with the banners first. And so if you see how there's this check mark next to this mat, that means you've already cut it out. But if you reselect that, you can go ahead and cut this again as long as it's highlighted. So once again, you'll just hit like cardstock, and then we'll load in our materials and press go. So when I thought this through for how I was going to do the banner, I decided that because of how I was going to make it, 2 sheets of paper were going to have to be used to cut out 4 little banners of each color. So I have this red piece of paper stuck down, and again, I just lined it up in the left-hand corner, stuck it down, took it under the guides of the Cricut Maker up to the rollers, and I am holding it gently down here. Going to click on the flashing button, wait for it to load. And from here, we're just going to press go, and we're going to repeat this process for the banners until we have all of our colors cut out. So it will be 2 red sets of paper, 2 blue sets of paper, and 2 white sets of paper for our text. All right, so as you probably saw, we have now cut out all of our pieces of banners, and you might have seen that some of these little circles did not come off when we were cutting. So what's nice about these circles is that pretty much what you can do is you could just gently lift it and take it straight off. If you wanted to, you could use that little weeder tool that we have. However, I feel like for a small little circle, that's not necessarily something you have to worry about or use because it's such an easy thing to take care of. Now I'm going to push my Cricut machine back a little bit for a minute because I just want to show you that off on the side here, I have been organizing all of these banners into the red, white, and blue pattern. And so I'm just going to finish up organizing these into red, white, and blue, red, white, and blue. So now these are ready to go for all of our text. I'm just going to flip it around so it's in order. So now we're going to cut out our text. And from here, you won't have to do anything on the computer except for press on light cardstock. And we're going to be putting our paper on here vertically instead of horizontally. So choose the color that you would like for your text, whether it be yellow or if it would be black, whatever you choose, And then we can get started with cutting out the text. Okay, so I went ahead and I changed my mind. If you remember originally I said that I pulled out some yellow cardstock for the text. I changed my mind. I think that black is really going to pop a little bit better on this banner. So we're going to use these 2 sheets of black paper. So you're just going to line it up vertically this time, top left-hand corner, stick it down. Make sure that you press like cardstock on your computer. And then we're going to load in our mat. And be sure that if you do mess with the spacing behind your Cricut, that you bring it back out before you load in your mat so that it doesn't hit a wall or anything behind. Now go ahead and load it in and we will get these papers cut. All right, so as you can see, our text has now cut out on this first sheet of paper. So I'm just going to start to roll back the mat. And we're going to get this main portion off of our light grip mat. And you might find when you are taking off the mat that it can be a little bit stubborn, and in some places, if you don't want to rip the paper like how we have here with this U, what you're going to want to do is you're going to want something nearby, kind of like a weeding tool. You could use your fingers if you would like. You're just going to kind of pry up underneath that area, and you're going to just help weed it out so you have a full sheet of paper. Because this in particular, we're going to want because of the 4th, so that we get the placement correctly. Now we have all of our text still on the mat. So we're just going to gently roll the mat back. We're going to start to lift off the individual pieces. Being gentle with those smaller lines. And don't ever be afraid of putting your fingers onto the sticky part of the mat. Yes, it will probably kind of affect how sticky your mat is. However, it's worth it, I think, to not ruin your project and just have a little less stickiness for your mat in the end. Because then you get these really nice fine lines taken care of with the U or with any of your text, really. So we're just going to continue on with this. And once we're done getting all of these little pieces off of the mat here, we're going to move on to that second page of text. All right, so now that we have all of our text cut out, our project is now complete. So what you can do now on your computer is you can hit done. And if you would like, you can double check and make sure that your project is saved. And then you can just close out your device. So now what we can do is we're going to put away this light grip mat first. So grab your cover and protect the stickiness of the light grip mat once again. Now from here, we can go ahead and assemble our project. So I'm just going to turn off my Cricut machine, and I am closing it, kind of pushing it back so we have space. So now we can start on text. I'm just going to start kind of setting it out. So here is everything for happy. And we'll start out with that first. So I'm going to bring over one of the banners. And since we're trying to do red, white, and blue, I'm just going to start with one at a time. So I'm going to line this up to the best of my ability. Be sure that you have your glue stick, your tape, or whatever you're using nearby. And so now that I kind of have an idea of how I want this to be set up, we're going to glue this down. Now, for a banner like this, I probably wouldn't actually laminate this. And so that's why cutting out the holes worked out so well. I'm just going to place this as best as I can and as straight as I can. We're just going to press it down. And then you can probably see there are some pieces that are still kind of sticking up. So I'm just going to kind of come under them with the glue stick, try to get it so they will stick down a little bit better. And now I know for the future that this is something that will happen with the rest of my pieces. So really, really don't be shy with the glue. We have some kind of threads from the glue. So I'm just going to kind of come in here and get as much of that off as I can. And now we have one of our banner pieces. So we're just going to repeat this process until we have all of the happy pasted down. All right, so now that we have taken care of the happy, next we're going to be dealing with the fourth of. So fourth is going to go onto this blue piece of paper. Now, if I remember correctly, I told you that you might want to keep these scraps of paper so that you could use it for the text a little bit better. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab a pair of scissors, smaller pair this time, and I'm going to cut out this template so that hopefully I can get a better idea of how to set this on our mat. So the rest of that can now be thrown away. I'm just going to line this up how I like it on this banner. I'm really liking the way that it looks right now. So now we're just going to take our pieces and we're going to set it into that template. So from here, now that we have all of our pieces glued down, I'm just going to gently lift up this template. I'm going to be especially gentle over here. And now you can see here we have our banner all set for 4th. And we're just going to continue on now until we have all of our pieces glued down. All right, so now that we have gotten everything glued down onto our banners, the nice part is from here what you could do is you could go ahead and start to make this kind of your own thing. So if you wanted to make this a little more fun by adding little doodles or decals, some glitter would probably be fun. You could definitely go ahead and do that now that you have this all together. I'm just kind of trying to see how big this banner is. Okay, perfect. And so now what we're going to do is we're going to take our string that we have and we are going to make it into the rest of the banner for our project. So I'm just going to guesstimate a length that's going to work. Then I'm going to add some more, and really this is a preference thing. You can go ahead and do the stringing of the banner however you would like. I'm just going to cut it out, and from here we're going to start to string together our banner. So as you just saw, I just made this string a little bit thicker because of how big of our holes. So I've tied off the ends just in a slip knot so that it'll be easier for me to adjust at the end. And I'm just going to start to thread this through. So because I have one side stuck down, I just decided which side I wanted to be the left side and which side want to be the right side. So I'm just going to take this string. We're going to thread it through the front of the banner. I'm going to take it around to the other side. We're going to pull it through from the back. Then we're just going to bring it all the way to the end here. And then we're going to repeat this. And so what I'm going to do is, now that we have one banner on, I'm actually going to take this thread and we're going to string it through the banner from the top. Take it through the back. And we're just going to repeat this until we have every piece of our banner on our string. All right, so now we have finished stringing through our banner. And so it's actually pretty long, and I still have some room on the end, which is a good thing because that means that we will be able to hang it up on a longer surface, whether it be a fireplace, across a wall, somewhere inside of the house, just to be sure that it will have a nice place to be seen. So now that our project is complete, what you would want to do is you would definitely want to go and you would want to hang this up somewhere, and then you would want to clean up. I am going to clean up around here a little bit first, so just be sure to put all of your materials back. Make sure that your Cricut is closed and has been turned off. And be sure that all of your scraps of paper that you know you aren't going to be reusing get thrown away at the end, just so that your workspace doesn't get too cluttered. And as you can see, here is just kind of an example of how it looks when it's all hung up. It looks pretty darn good, if I do say so myself. It's pretty darn long, but I think that it looks fantastic. Just something nice and simple for the 4th of July. All right, and that's going to do it for today's episode of Craft Cut Magic. I hope that you enjoyed making this patriotic 4th of July banner with me today. Now, in the next episode, I'm hoping to do another patriotic craft with you, so be on the lookout for that episode, and I will see you next time. Thanks for watching.